Hello wonderful viewer, if you've made it into this video I can only assume that you are bored of whatever old game you're playing, whether it be fun, exciting or interesting. Maybe you're looking for something new. This is exactly why in this video I'm going to go through 10 games that could interest you after spending hours and getting bored of one game. This list is simply games of my own opinion, as these are games I've turned to after spending enough time in certain video games. If you have your own suggestions, then make sure to comment them, as if I get enough suggestions I would definitely, most certainly, probably, maybe make another video like this, if you even care at this point. Now that is plenty of time in the introduction, let's go straight into the video and this list of 10 games, starting off with game number 1. Before we start, however, be aware these games aren't in any order whatsoever, except that they are in an order to the extent that the games at the start of the video are going to be more games that you play once or twice, maybe like non-story games without any narrative whatsoever, but then at the end of the video we're going to have some more story-based games. Anyway, game number 1. This game I quite enjoy and have played a bit when it had a free weekend, and that is Battlebit Remastered. As mentioned, this game was free for a weekend. Don't know if it will become free again, but on Steam it's a fairly cheap game, looking under $25, pounds or euros. It's a rather fun, low poly first person shooter that has epic large scale maps with up to 254 players, 127 aside of course, all fighting for domination, capturing checkpoints and other goals and objectives. Multiple game modes allow for the use of different vehicles such as helicopters, boats or even tanks, to be used in battle against other players and player squads, where you can group up with your friends to go to the front line together. As this game is a combat game, obviously the combat is fun, however rather than taking 10 shots and surviving, you could easily die in one well placed sniper, making this game frustrating at times. Yet this game is still fun to come back to, breaking up grinding in other games or just a quick 20 to 40 minute match of fun combat against other players. The voice chat also enhances the game, although I haven't actually tried it myself. I've heard other teammates shouting orders, requesting backup, adding to the realistic feel of the battle, besides the realistic-ish combat, to the extent that it's a low poly rendered blobby mess. Moving on, game number 2, coming straight in with Satisfactory. In short, this game is satisfying, hence the name. This is the factory building, resource gathering sci-fi space game that is fun alone or of course online with friends. This game is a little more expensive than the previously mentioned Battlebit at around $30, euros and pounds or whatever, yet it does include nice graphics or art style, as it's more of a colourful interpretation of space with a more cartoon-like art style, which looks rather nice. Unlike Battlebit, this game is not combat focused at all. I mean, you can kill animals, but really the aim of the game is to harvest resources, make epic, massive behemoths of factories, to manufacture products and send them into space with a giant space elevator. As stated, this is online, so you can team up with your friends to build these epic industrial factories. However, please note this game is still in development. The higher price may seem a bit of a shock to some, as there is little narrative to the game. Despite it being a good game to constantly return to, you may not get all the hours you wanted, and overall it can seem a little lacking in some areas. Though the advantage of this game is it is constantly updated with new content, so in development games such as Satisfactory are certainly fun to return to after maybe leaving them for a few years or something. Speaking of in development games, now moving on to the third game on my list of games to play when bored of games that you've spent too long in. Manor Lords! I recently got into this game as it only just released on Steam a few days or weeks ago, depending on when I make the video. Maybe it's even years at this point. Anyway, this game is a city building game set in medieval times with huts, camps and manors to grow your village or town with. The aim is to develop through town levels and keep up with demand as the starving, cold and hopeless villagers require jobs, food and fuel. Also be aware, as in some game scenarios, enemy Manor Lords will use their armies to take land, so using specific jobs like the blacksmith, you'll need to develop an army to challenge the enemy baron. This game is fun and satisfying, as not only you are playing as the creator and keeper of the village, but you can actually see your village from a clunky but cool person view. There are bugs and breakages, as remember it is still in development, so it can only improve and add more to the already fun game. This game is partially good if you need a break from grinding or adventure games, as it is something very different. being more of a city builder, although at this early state is rather expensive for around 30–40 euros and so on. So I would definitely look into some more in-depth reviews before considering this game, just to be certain it's a game for you. Despite the price, I think with amazing graphics and visual quality, fun and satisfying city building gameplay and epic battles with hundreds of AI soldiers in colossal armies makes this a fun, unique game to turn to when bored. Sticking to city development builder games, number 4 on my list is Cities Skylines. A more modern these days game compared to the other ones on this list. This game could either be around 20 to 30 euros and dollars and you know what, or if you want better gameplay and more in-game content, the 40 to 50 dollars, euros and pounds, as there is also a Cities Skylines 2. Seeing as you're watching a video on what games to play when bored, I would recommend the first version of the cheaper, although less advanced, it still offers the ability to create massive cities, epic landforms, cool natural disaster simulations, and overall enjoy watching people create and live in cities designed by you. If you want to take the game further after playing and experiencing it for a bit, there are plenty of mods and DLCs to keep the game fresh and fun. Many creators have made maps, mods and buildings to easily download from the Steam Workshop. This is one of those games which is fun to keep returning to, similar to Satisfactory, although despite not being in development it has a new experience every time you build a city in a different player made map. Moving on to I'm bored of grinding, please help me not to go insane, game number 5, Beam NG.Drive. This game is a car driving game with realistic destruction effects on the many vehicles available to play in free modes or in multiple different scenarios. Scenarios including cinematic chasing or just trying to get your vehicle down a hill without taking too much damage. This game can be fun, relaxing and exciting depending on what you want to do, for only around £20 or dollars. This game offers a lot in terms of visual quality and gameplay without having to be too dedicated to it. Unlike games like Satisfactory or Manor Lords, you can just hop on and relax driving cars and trucks in Beam NG.Drive for any amount of time, making it the perfect boredom breaker. Number 6, I have run out of games to put for number 6, so goodbye and subscribe. No, I am of course being hilariously funny by making that joke that I have run out of games, ha ha me. Anyway, number 6, Subnautica. Subnautica and Subnautica Below Zero are both resource-gathering survival adventure games which have a mysterious and exciting plot with epic-looking cinematic visuals despite being mostly underwater. Both games have as much underwater as you would expect from a game set above water, or possibly more as the map size is massive. Below Zero, the second game, does include some icy terrain. The start of the plot is, without much spoilers, you crash into an ocean planet in a massive spaceship. However, you escape in an escape pod, so thankfully you survive. I mean, it would be a pretty boring game if you died in the introduction. So you have to craft parts and pieces for bases whilst also avoiding dangerous creatures in the sea. This game could both be a game to take a break from many hours of another game, and also could be a new game to get stuck into, and once finished you can then, if you enjoyed it of course, experience the second one, Subnautica Below Zero. Both games are also like the rest of this list on Steam, this time being around $25 to $30, pounds or euros. On to the next game, number whatever this number is at this point. Maybe if you subscribe I'll tell you. Have you subscribed? Oh well, that was a trick because you need to subscribe and like the video. Well, I'm assuming you have, because why wouldn't you? This is the boring game number 7. Game to play when bored number 7, Chorus. Another sci-fi game like Satisfactory, however very, very different. This game is a third-person spaceship shooting game, just like retro space fighter games, but with an epic story and once again, nice, colourful yet believable art style. This game is a low-budget game, so the developers didn't have much to work with, but still the game is fun, whilst never taking you out of third-person ship perspective. The story is told over your ship's intercom and the character's thoughts. A little funky, but an effective solution to tedious fighting, this game allows the ability to swiftly, magically dash to behind the ship you're fighting. Obviously, this improves the combat experience, as you can always shoot the enemy without too much skill or frustration. On Steam for like many of these games, around $20 to $30, pounds or euros. This game is fun, the story is only about 10 to 20 hours. It means that once you've had some fun finishing this game, you can quickly go back to that game that you were originally bored of, which is why you watched this video of course. Okay, let's move on to the third last game that could be possibly your excuse to stop playing the game you've been playing for hours. If you like mystical and magical games, then this one is definitely for you. Kena Bridge of Spirits is an action-adventure game where you play Kena, or however you say it, Kenna, a young female who has a magical staff which is used in puzzles and combat throughout the game. You also collect these little spirit things that look absolutely adorable, and by the end of the game you have a mini army of them following you about the place. Like the previously mentioned chorus, this is definitely story based and could maybe take a little longer than a short break from some game you are bored of, so I would once again recommend looking into this game, maybe on YouTube in more depth. At the time of recording and publishing on the 12th of May, this game is 65% off at 30 to 40 euros. I don't even know if anyone's watching it at this point because, I mean, the game's going to be only 65% off or whatever until maybe the 17th of May, I think. This game is most certainly more story based and in no way an open world sandbox, so if you enjoy that sort of game then maybe you should go back to Satisfactory at the start of the video. So go away. As beautiful and as magical as Kenna Bridge of Spirits is, this most certainly is story focused and not open world. Game for when you're bored number 9 is Baldur's Gate 3, which is full of places to explore, characters to meet and story to complete in a fantastical world. This may seem a little strange one to put on the list, which is why it's near the end of the video so I have less people judging me on it, as Baldur's Gate 3 takes a lot longer to complete and to see everything that the game offers. Although it is somewhat explorationable terrain, the game is an RPG, once again adventure focused game with certain areas blocked off until later in the game, making this similar to Kenna but just about 100 times bigger. This game is definitely worth looking into if you really aren't thinking about going back to the game you're bored of, or if you're just generally bored and need a game to play, then Baldur's Gate 3 is perfect. Personally, never played this game so can't offer much information on the gameplay, but as it is an RPG it will be based around character decisions and choices alongside with combat around the main adventure. Because it is a massive game, it is on Steam for 50 to 60 euros and all the other currencies similar to that. An expensive but fun and worth it game, perfect if you're bored. And finally, my 10th game that you should play when bored of whatever else is an open world story game which is fairly well known, so sorry if you were hoping for some irrelevant game that has 3 downloads. Horizon Forbidden West is a rather recent RPG which is a sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn. Both games have you fight enemy clans as well as robotic creatures and animals, as the world is set in the future where humans have become less and more advanced at the same time. The story is played through the character of Aloy in the post-apocalyptic world filled with wonderful cinematic visuals which will keep you entertained for at least 30 hours and probably longer, with full completion. You will of course be paying a similar price to Baldur's Gate with the adventure at around $50 to $60, euros or pounds on Steam like all of these games. And that pretty much does it with the best games to play when bored of games you've been grinding or mashing. What am I even saying anymore? If you have found this video helpful and are going to check out any of these games or all of these games, then make sure to remember to let me know by liking this video. From multiplayer combat to massive open world adventure games, give your ideas in the comment section, and if you want to see more games, lists or other gameplay from possibly games mentioned in this list, then make sure to subscribe as well, and thank you very much for watching.